Our next presenter is Robyn Delong. She's a successful top producing realtor. She's a certified life coach, published author and poet, a former college professor, and most of all, a lover of life and possibility. Robyn has written a book called From Grief to Grace. In July 2013, her youngest son, Resh Michael, age 36, died in a tragic auto accident. The book shares her personal journey from grief to grace, which continues to be one of her greatest lessons in finding the good in the unspeakable sorrow, generating joy from a broken heart, and rebuilding her shattered dreams. Please welcome Robyn Delong.
It is. I want to say grace to grace all the time. Hi. So, are you willing to channel your, maybe it should be the third grader. Ready to channel your third grader? Okay. Simon says stand up. Okay. Simon says touch your heart. Simon says fold your arms. I want you to notice which one is on the top, which hand is on the top, just for future reference. And fold your arms. Sit down. Simon says sit down. Okay. Who is Simon? Who is Simon? Simon Peter. Listen, Simon could be just a child's game, but Simon could be CNN, Fox News, CNBC, whatever, name the alphabet. It could be Facebook. So I'm asking you to name your favorite source of the collective news gathering that I would say is they say and you should. So Simon is no longer, Simon says, we've outgrown that. But how many times do you hear someone say, well, they say? And so you attribute, they say, or, well, you should. It's the collective, I don't want to call it wisdom, but it is our collective sharing of a consciousness that can produce an election like we just had, can produce a lot of fear, it can produce a lot of love. And I loved echoes of ego. Perfect. Perfect. That's Simon says. So when life delivers the unexpected, the unpredicted, the unwanted, where do you turn? Do you turn to what they say you should do? Or do you have a way to turn inward to your heart? There's been a lot of conversation today about that inner wisdom, that place within where we can turn and we can stand steady and listen. We can listen to each other from that place, and we can receive guidance from that place. July 25th, 2013. It began as a very ordinary, normal day. It was sunny outside. There was the Delta breeze blowing. There was quiet. I live across the street from the park. I could hear the squirrels. It was a beautiful day, and at 7:25, my phone chirped in the back room. I went to answer it, and I got the news that no parent ever wants to get. I was told that my beloved son had been hit by a truck and he was in the Green Valley mortuary. I don't want to dwell on that today. What I want to share is an aspect of the process that I went through that I've alluded to it in the book, but I've been asked to speak. I've done it like 7 times now at the Death and Dying class at Sac City College by a friend. And they look at the different ways that we can engage with that process when you've received notice that someone you love has died, whether you've had warning about it or whether it's a sudden shock, which it was for me. So when I got that news, everything in my being, every cell of my body was, as a mother, wanting to get to my son. And he was in the Placerville Marshall Hospital mortuary, which is called Green Valley. It's about 40 miles away. And so I wrote down the number and I called. And I was told that they were going to keep him for 2 days so that they could do an autopsy. By this time, we were at my mother's house. My son John was there, his wife. My son John is Jewish, so his rabbi was there. And I call it playing the rabbi card. I didn't know at the time. But the rabbi, I told him, I'm trying to get there. And the rabbi called the mortuary and said, in the Jewish tradition, even though Resh Michael was not Jewish, it is important that a family member be with the body 24/7. Kind of how do you want to handle that? And so what was going to be 2 days shrunk to 2 hours. So now I'm faced with a decision, what do I do now? Because I'm still wanting to get to him. And so we were going to release the body to, I think it's a funeral home on Fulton Avenue. So we call there, and again, I'm asking, well, when he arrives, can I go be with him? Well, are you having him cremated, or is he being prepared, embalmed? And I'm like, oh, God, make this decision, So I'm dealing with a decision again in a state of shock. But I decided, and it was kind of the tradition on my mom and dad's side of the family, that we would have him cremated. So I tell them that, and they said, well, sorry, but you can't be with him because he's not being prepared. Barrier after barrier. But on the other side, Michael is an amazing musician. Timing is everything. And I had been able to reach my sister 5 minutes before she left the house down in Southern California, who was able to reach somebody in Petaluma who specializes in home funerals 5 minutes before she was leaving the house, who was able to reach somebody in Truckee who called me. So about the time that I'm like not knowing what's going to happen, I get a phone call from this woman named Carrie. And she says to me, she's a home family funeral director, and that her whole purpose is to have me have what I want. And she says, what would you want? I couldn't even say what I wanted. I wasn't able to verbalize it. And she says to me, would you like to bring him home? Now, every cell in my body knew that answer was yes. When I talk about listening to your heart, I didn't ask what would people think. I didn't care about what they say. I just knew the answer was, oh, yes. She says, don't worry about a thing. Just give me the phone number. So at 4:35, I'm at Marshall Hospital. Well, I'm at the mortuary, and I am signing the certificate that allows me to bring Michael home, and they're putting him in her van with her husband, and by 6 o'clock, I have him at our house in a room that became a very sacred space. Michael was also a body worker. And so there was a room that we shared. It has all of my books, all of my spiritual books, but it also had his massage table and his oils and his music and candles. And we brought his box. I call it his box. It was a cardboard box, nothing fancy. He was not a fancy person, and that's what you do. It's like we brought the cardboard box in, put it on the massage table, and I was able to be with my son in a way that brought the greatest healing for me. I was able to make choices that I didn't know were available to me, except that Spirit had asked me over and over, I want to be with my son, I want to be with my son, and I kept listening to that and letting it guide me. I had him for a precious 24 hours. It was the most sacred time to be with him. His friends were able to come. My family, my sister, his cousins, and his brother John, his precious brother John, who drove me there, came back. It wouldn't have been his choice. He was a little uncomfortable with it, but he was so willing to support me. And by the time it came time, I could have had him for 3 days. I chose 24 hours. By the time it was time to let go and carry him out to the car, his brother had an opportunity to complete with him. So many friends had come by. We had decorated that box all over. We had drawn it. We had symbols inside. He had his fedora was on his head. He was so loved on, and it was such a beautiful way to send him off. So I wanted to talk to you today about that important listening to your heart, listening to that part of you that will always tell you what you need, and trusting it. Thank you.